Welcome to Hope for Our Times, everyone. And boy, we have a terrific program for you. We're going to be focusing in on the Mideast with my guest today, Bill Koenig. Many of you already know him. He's from watch.org. He spent decades covering the news, particularly from Washington, D.C. and the Middle East. In Washington, D.C. and the Middle East, he's the president of Koenig World Watch Daily, an online news service that focuses on biblically relevant news and events. He is also a Washington, D.C. correspondent. He's been there since 2001, and it's just a real blessing for us to be able to have him on our podcast today. Thank you, Bill, for joining me. By the way, correction, Bill's new website, which is absolutely terrific, is williamkoenig.com. Bill, just thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tom. Always a pleasure.
There's nothing to talk about, so I'm not sure what we're going to do. But okay, let's just start with this. You were at the inauguration. All kinds of interesting things have been happening. Weather started changing. All this pressure has been put on Netanyahu. I want to talk about what's going on in Israel and Gaza, the entire Mideast, the peace plans that are being brought forth, Saudi Arabia's involvement. A lot to say there. But Bill, what do you make of it with all of a sudden things kind of breaking loose when pressure was put on Netanyahu?
You know, Tom, with Eye to Eye, my book there, and also with my Koenig's Eye View from the White House that I've written since 2004. What happened is not a surprise. Steve Witkoff, Trump's Middle East envoy, went over to Israel a couple days before the inauguration, went to Doha, Qatar. And I might add, Steve Witkoff sold a $635 million building of his to Qatar and the United Arab Emirates last year. So in other words, his building was upside down and the Qataris bailed him out, along with the Emirates' sovereign money. So Witkoff is in Doha, and all of a sudden we get news that this massive polar vortex is coming towards the United States, and that's going to lead to almost the entire country being in a freeze. And then he leaves Doha and goes and puts the squeeze on Netanyahu that you're going to accept this deal. So a lot of the positions that Netanyahu had about the Philadelphia corridor and some strong line positions all of a sudden evaporated because of pressure from Trump's Middle East envoy, Witkoff. And right about that time, President Trump says, okay, we're canceling the outdoor inauguration. We're going to go into the colonnade in Capitol Hill. So all the millions of dollars spent, the 250,000 people that were descending on Washington for the parades and the celebration, that just got froze out. Literally, I mean, I was there, it's 5-10 degrees, wind chill 10 to 20 below. And isn't it interesting, Tom? And then for the next 3 or 4 days, the whole country was in this freezer. After the deal was announced.
It's just absolutely fascinating to watch the speed that everything is happening. So back when Trump was president the first time, Abraham Accords comes in. I've had you on the program before, and you've talked about this other places too. Abraham Accords is introduced, and all of a sudden, all hell started breaking loose. There are certain things that happened at that exact time I'm still not allowed to talk about. But here it is. We're restarting. We have a new Trump administration, yet the Abraham Accords are front and center as I look at it. I have a lot of questions about it. And then also there's the Abraham Shield Plan. This is from, I believe it's from YNet News, says, is a roadmap for meeting the regional dynamics after war. Comprehensive strategy proposed by Israel's Coalition for Regional Security aims to stabilize Mideast through Saudi normalization, Palestinian separation, and united front against Iran. So when you look at Abraham Shield Plan, Abraham Accords, is this one and the same, or is it another arm of it, or what is this?
Yeah, I've written a lot about it, Tom. You know, our Koenig's view is a subscription model, and it's for subscribers. And I went into detail in November 29, talking about the fact that Trump has 4 billionaires involved in representing him in the Middle East. He's got a guy named Boulos who helped deliver the Muslim vote in America, who's a Lebanese, who also does business in Nigeria. You've got Steve Witkoff, worth $500 million to $1 billion, real estate guy and longtime friend of Trump's, who's Jewish. And then you had Elon Musk meeting with the Iranian ambassador to the UN on the sidelines. And then you have Kushner coming back into the mix. Kushner, has a $2.5 billion sovereign fund, $1.5 billion that's from the Saudis. So all of a sudden, and I looked at it very closely, and I go, oh my gosh, these guys are going to look at this as a business deal. I mean, these are all business guys that have made a lot of money. Are they going to look at the covenant land of Israel as cutting a business deal? And another concern is and this is from a lot of my right-wing friends in Israel, and a lot of the same friends that you have, Tom, they were really petrified, troubled by the fact that Witkoff put such a hard pitch on Netanyahu to take this deal or else. And basically holding out the caveat that you'll be one of the first, if not the first, to have an audience with President Trump. So the concern now is, okay, it worked with the ceasefire deal and the Israeli hostage negotiations. And is he and others, are they going to put the big squeeze on Netanyahu to agree to a Saudi deal, a Saudi normalization deal in the context of the Abraham Accords? And even last week, Crown Prince bin Salman talked about investing up to $650 billion in the United States. So a lot of high-level posturings going on. Qatar, with their long history with Hamas and other terror organizations, and they have a problematic. They got two public sides, the positive, and then also the side that's representing and helping fund terrorism. So, with that said, Tom, we're concerned, obviously, if there's going to be pressure. One quick caveat that I think is important: September 22nd, 2022. Netanyahu was at the UN General Assembly with his little graphic. It talked about the new Middle East, and that this is going to be a new time for all the Middle East, Jewish, Israeli, Jewish, and Arab relations, and even possibility working something out with the Palestinians. And then bin Salman was on TV on Fox talking about this new day, new relationships between Israel and the Saudis. And a few days later, on October 7th, 15 days later, the catastrophe October 7th happened. And I felt for that brief moment, the God of Israel lifted his restraining hand off the protection of Israel, because there was going to be some compromise the God of Israel did not accept in that Saudi-Israel normalization deal.
Looking back to that, I remember that clearly, September of 2023. Just shortly after that, October 7th of 2023.
Right, 2023.
And I remember watching and reporting on both Netanyahu and MBS, and I said, this cannot go well. I remember speaking at a prophecy conference saying, this can't go well with Netanyahu's words. I said, look at what he's saying. He's throwing this in the face of God, and the war hadn't broken out yet, but now it has. But we know that God is the keeper of Israel. He never slumbers or sleeps. Bill, Israel has had victory after victory in this battle. And yet now we come to everything you just mentioned, this excessive pressure on Netanyahu. I've believed that what would happen after October 7, the money would pour into Israel, because you just put it so well. It's all business leaders, billionaires that are behind this. How are they going to look at this? When I look at someone like Mike Huckabee, for example, who you're friends with, to me, He's biblically minded. He gets you don't divide the land. He gets Bible prophecy. He understands God's covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. In my mind, it puts Mike in a very precarious position. But you know him, and I don't want you to necessarily comment on that. You can if you want, but I don't want to put you into a
Well, Tom, I'm glad you brought that up because I had a nice visit with Ambassador Friedman down in Mar-a-Lago. We had the Jerusalem prayer breakfast on December 14th, and I had a chance to ask him about his friend and my friend Mike Huckabee. Is he going to be neutered because of these dynamic billionaires and a member even of Trump's family? And his daughter Tiffany married Boulis's son. I mean, he's the guy that's going to be the point man dealing with the Arabs. I mean, how ironic. I mean, his son-in-law Kushner, and then his daughter's marrying Boulis's son. It's incredible. I mean, it's like a movie. But Ambassador Friedman, who just came out, as you know, Tom, with the book, The One Jewish State, he is going to encourage hopefully Ambassador Huckabee to stand with the Word, stand with the Bible. That's exactly what Ambassador Friedman's doing with his One Jewish State. He's standing with the biblical rights that Israel has to that one Jewish state in the context of the Abraham Accord.
Thank you so much.
Abrahamic Covenant. Sorry,
Abrahamic
Tom.
Covenant. And that's that is an interesting name in and of itself. But Bill, your new website is just fantastic. I love it, and I don't know who put it together for you, but kudos to him. How do people connect with you?
Well, there's two ways, Tom. William Koenig, KOENIG.com. That's our Koenig's Eye View from the White House, and our other site is watch.org, WATCH.org. And at the top, you can link to both sites through both sites. So watch.org or williamkoenig.com. Sure. And we have a weekly subscription. It comes out every Friday, Tom. And we have a $7 a month version. We also have a 6-month version and also a 12-month version. And it's Koenig's Eye View, and it's up-to-date 18 to 20 pages of breaking news that's biblically relevant for that particular week.
Great, thank you. And by the way, everybody, this is live, so feel free to send in your questions. We would love to answer them while we're on, so go for it. And okay, with this, I want to ask you about Gaza. I mean, I got like a million questions. We're not going to get to all of them in our time, but this is also out of YNet News. Trump pressures Egypt to take in Gaza Palestinians. That's one question I have for you. I want to discuss that. But this goes on and says, President tells reporters he hoped El-Sisi, who by the way is for all of our viewers, president of Egypt, who he hoped El-Sisi, who is a friend, would agree to his idea to remove Gazans to neighboring countries during rebuilding in the Strip, as the U.S. provides Egypt with much aid. And he says he will discuss two-state solution with Netanyahu soon. So this just speaks to everything you're talking about. One is what happens with the people of Gaza. Stackelbeck just did a great program yesterday saying, look, here's the reality of it. The people in Gaza, most of them aren't members of Hamas, but they're radicalized. They're not going to be unradicalized. Egypt gets it. Jordan gets it. They have a Muslim Brotherhood problem already. You mix the two together in Egypt. Egypt's like, we don't want them, even though they're primarily Egyptians and Jordanians. They want everybody to have to be an Israel problem. And then you have that plus, it sounds like Trump says he's ready to discuss this two-state solution with Netanyahu. I mean, you've spoken a lot on this problem of dividing the land. What are your thoughts on this part?
Well, Tom, I mean, it's just not going to work. I mean, we've seen over and over again, eye to eye, right there. It's just not going to work, Tom. I don't know what's going to happen. Trump had everything in the world going for himself. And then January 28, 2020, he introduced the Peace to Prosperity Plan. He went from having total favor to being out of office, 9-10 months later. are being voted out of office. And so no two-state. It's just not going to work. They can talk about it. They can do whatever. There's different, Mike Huckabee, Ambassador Friedman, and others are talking about a one state. And, Mike Huckabee will be going through some hearings here shortly. And he did a great job on Fox tonight emphasizing the biblical right that Israel has to that land. And he didn't see how a two-state plan would work. And it hasn't worked. So it's going to be interesting to see the emphasis. And then Mr. Boulos, Mossad Boulos, talked about two states. I don't know how committed he was to that. We had a chance to get some information to his office. So with all that said, Tom, I mean, they're going to. I mean, this is the mantra of the EU. This is the mantra of the Arab League. This is, they're talking about normalization agreements, and the Saudi foreign minister said this week, no normalization without the two-state plan. Mm-hmm. And that's been a consistent message out of the Saudi foreign ministry. But at the same time, Crown Prince bin Salman, the leader of the strongest leader within the country, his father's doesn't have the power that his son does. So he's saying, we have our own relationship with Israel that we're focused on. They're also concerned about a normalization agreement would give the Saudis tremendous security. That would be part of the deal, is a guarantee of U.S. security for the Saudis. So with that said, to bin Salman, the Palestinian state issue is an issue, but it's not, I think, Tom, going to get in the way of a normalization deal with Israel. But the question is, Tom, will the God of Israel rebuke that plan? Mm-hmm. Like he did, like you mentioned in 2023, in October 2023. We haven't heard anything much about it since then. So bottom line, Tom, I don't know how it's going to play out, but if it has to do with the land or putting Israel into a precarious position, then the God of Israel will rebuke that, or rebuke the efforts, as he has so many other times.
Well, thinking back to 2023, in that meeting with the UN, with Netanyahu and bin Salman, I remember bin Salman saying, I can't remember if it was leading up to that meeting or during the meeting, but he was basically, we're done with the Palestinian issue. We need to move on from it. And then, then everything happened. So when we look at this, Trump saying we're going to move the Gazans out of Gaza because they can't be there, where do you see Gaza being rebuilt with the international community, or Saudi Arabia? I think it was UAE just the other day said, hey, we want to be the ones to be the peacekeepers in Gaza, and we'll make sure no radical terrorists are there. The only way they can really do that is to move the people of Gaza out or keep IDF troops in. And I don't see how it can be rebuilt. I personally think it will be as like a crown jewel, and money's going to pour in. It won't be forever because the prophecy of Zephaniah says it's going to become a place of jackals. But when we look at it, where do you see that part going in all of these talks with Abraham Shield and Abraham Accords?
Well, Jordan, which is really kind of the Palestinian state, does not want Hamas, or does not want to be responsible. I remember during negotiations, Crown Prince Abdullah told George W. Bush and also Netanyahu that there needs to be a buffer between Israel and Jordan, and he doesn't want that buffer to be Palestinians from the West Bank, Judea, Samaria, Judea, Samaria. So they don't want them. Jordan doesn't want the Palestinians. Egypt doesn't want it. Doesn't want them. I think it was Kushner that floated the idea. I mean, and then Trump recently is this real estate that Gaza, it's so valuable, it has so much potential, but you still have a lot of radical people that are living there, and you still have you've seen what's happened since the release of the hostages. I mean, they're radical. They got their mask on again. They got new equipment, new uniforms. I mean, they're getting radicalized again. So the bottom line, Tom, and it's a good question. Your good question is excellent. Is how do we take care of this problem and the 1.5 million people that live in Gaza that are very, I think 75-80% that still favor Hamas. So I don't know what will happen outside of just just the destruction of Gaza. I don't know. I don't know if that's in the cards. But one other thing, a quick note. Rubio this afternoon, Secretary of State said Hamas has to go. Hegseth at Secretary of Defense, same thing. Mike Waltz, National Security Advisor, Hamas must go. There is no future for Hamas as far as our top leadership right now saying it will not work in Gaza with the Hamas leadership in place. And they're determined and very committed to backing Israel to the extent that that problem is eliminated. And it was getting close. There were still a couple battalions left, but that's what they've been talking about is the future elimination of Hamas of having any role or any responsibility in Gaza. And that's what our top leadership's saying. I don't know how practical it is at this point.
Yeah, I don't see how it can possibly be accomplished without keeping troops there. I mean, what a mess. As you said, 1.5 million people. Plus, the UN itself is one of the biggest problems. I think, weren't 4 of the hostages kept in a UN building? I think, if I remember right, it was 4 of them that were released last week. And you have Guterres out there just complaining about the U.S. and Israel because they're saying the UN cannot even be involved here anymore. The UN is a terrorist organization. At least, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, whether it's the UN's International Court of Justice or the UN's International Criminal Court, or it's the World Health Organization. And then for us, the UN, the Arab League, we've seen Guterres, the Secretary General of the UN, who's been very pro-Palestinian. UNRWA, Danny Danon, ambassador to the U.S., ambassador to the UN, said the other day, UNRWA's out. We're moving you out of Jerusalem, and possibly out of Israel. So a lot of the one good context here, Tom, is a lot of this is being exposed for what it is. The whole UN thing is just a farce. I mean, we've seen the resolutions over the years. The majority of those are against Israel, and it's problematic. So they're not a good peacekeeper. They're not a good peacemaker. Look what happened with UN peacekeepers living amongst Hezbollah. Hezbollah picked up 150,000 rockets and 15,000 missiles with those UN peacekeepers there since 2006.
Yeah. Well, what a blessing they are. I'm going to shift gears up to the northern part. Israel's in the buffer zone. Micah Dooley has a question. I'll get to that in just a second. But first, I want to give a shout out to John Howler. Our friend John is watching right now, Bill. So
hey, John.
Thanks for joining us, John. And again, you can keep in connection with Bill. Contact him at williamkoenig.com. I encourage you to. His website is just absolutely fantastic. I'm going to get to Micah Dooley's question in a second. But when we look at Turkey and we look at what's going on with Syria, so Israel isn't allowed to do anything, right? They pushed into the area of Syria for obvious reasons. You got the Gaza issue. The world, there's so much anti-Semitism and anti-Israel sentiment that is out, it's everywhere. Flying under the term of I'm not an anti-Semite, I'm an anti-Zionist. What a bunch of hogwash that is. But nevertheless, Israel can't do anything, but nobody's saying anything about what Turkey is doing in Syria at all. And so you have this massive problem with Turkey and Israel right now. Israel's saying there's no way we can pull out of the buffer zone or anywhere where we are in Syria for obvious reasons. Hezbollah is still there. Now you have the Golani terror group that's there. You have Turkey, who hates Israel, wants to take Jerusalem, that's there. And the pressure against Israel to say you need to pull off is absurd. But Micah Dooley says, has the U.S. formally recognized the new Syrian government, and how does having a new group in charge of Syria play into Bible prophecy? We could go on about Bible prophecy in his question, but the U.S. hasn't recognized a new government there yet, have they?
No, I don't believe they will. I don't. This is just this is part of who saw this coming. Maybe Haller, because Haller, because of our friend Chuck Missler. Like John was reminding us the other day that Missler always said, keep an eye on Turkey. That's the key. Watch Turkey as goes the Middle East. And Turkey, I mean, what a player. They have no regard for Israel, the Jewish people. They want to redo. Erdogan wants to redo the Ottoman Empire, but I mean, you talk about the Russian ships have gone home. Tartus is being kept for serious purpose. I mean, in the new leadership there. I mean, Russia bailed out of there with some of their planes. Iran doesn't have the opening inside of Syria that they did. I mean, incredible. And then we see that Russia and Iran have just cut a deal to work even more cooperatively. But this, and then Erdogan is after the Kurds, part of the Kurds. There's a couple of different, the Peshmerga and the PKK, and then there's an offshoot of the PKK that helped keep the United States used to keep ISIS at bay. So that's very complicated. I remember at the end of Trump's first term, Erdogan was just knocking off. I mean, he was just going in there to take out all the Kurds. And I think Franklin Graham called the White House and said, hey, you got to do what you can, President Trump. This taking out the Kurds is just not good. This is just, it has to be stopped. So there's just so much I mean, Tom, who saw this really coming? Maybe someone that follows Syria closely, but look at the dynamics in the last 60 to 90 days in Syria. And with Erdogan, who loves that country, wants that country, you got a new leadership there. Assad's gone. Alawite, who kept Assad in government, are being tortured and killed. It's just like, wow. I mean, and then we were looking at Isaiah 17:1 for so long that Assad was going to be the one that was going to fire rockets at Tel Aviv, and Israel was going to respond and take out Damascus. With all that said, it's just the dynamics are so interesting. And one other note that you and I are following is the missile defense system is down in Syria, and it's down in Iran. What a time for Israel to go in and take out the nukes. Very interesting. And then at the same time, the United States and Israel and the Brits are telling the Houthis, back off. If not, you're going to pay a price. So a lot of dynamics, Tom. I think only the God of Israel knows how it's going to play out in the next week, months, and year. But as you said earlier, having Trump in the White House right now is very biblical and very prophetic and very significant.
Oh yeah,
it's going to be.
I think absolutely. You think everything you just mentioned. I tried to imagine the other day. What if it was a Harris regime presidency right now? Could you imagine how different things would look already in a very bad way? I mean, the whole world would be just this massive vacuum that evil would have flown into. In the Mideast, who knows what they would have done with Israel? I'm thinking they would have cut off every possibility that Israel could support itself. But I look at that and think, oh my, if Trump wasn't there. I am concerned about the Abraham Accords and this push, all this money, a business deal dividing the land. That's a huge concern of mine. But when we look at the dynamic of Iran, do you see Israel being green-lighted by the Trump administration to deal with Iran's nukes or something else? Because I do know Trump was trying to negotiate with Iran, but that never seems to work out. But, I think Obama sent Iran something like $500 billion in cash or something like that.
Yeah, it was a significant, I can't remember the exact number, but then also, Tom, over $100 billion transferred to Iran during Biden's time in office. $100 billion, maybe $120 billion. And that helped fund, with the price of oil, with the elimination of sanctions. And Trump's going to put them back on them. When Trump was there, they were up against the ropes economically and otherwise. That government was under this Supreme Leader Khomeini and others. They were up against the ropes, using a boxing term. And the lifeline was thrown out, just like Obama threw him a lifeline after Bush. Biden threw him a lifeline as well after Trump. And I don't know. As far as a green light, I think we're getting a lot closer to that. I know the Iranians are. I think maybe one indicator is the fact that they're talking real tough with bravado right now,
Yeah.
and that they're not afraid of anybody. United States, Israel. So usually when they feel like they could be hit soon, they start acting like they act tough. But it's a lot of words.
Yeah, it's interesting. They can talk as tough as they want, but Iran launched 2 different ballistic missile attacks at Israel, and the God of Israel protected Israel. So I look at that and just think again the amazing days that we live in. Kevin Snyder asks a great question. I'm going to be leading a tour in Israel just in March. I'm excited about it. Maybe we'll get to connect when I'm there. If you're there too, I would love to see you. But
that'd be great, Tom.
Yeah, and I'll be there for a few days early. A meeting with my friend Roddy. I think you know Roddy from in the Old City, Christchurch area.
Yes.
Yeah, and some other folks early on that you also know. But with this, Kevin Snyder asks a very good question, and it is a concern because you have the problem with Gaza. He asks, what is Israel going to do with Judea and Samaria? And thank you, Kevin, for saying Judea and Samaria. The whole world calls it the West Bank. We go by its biblical terms, Judea and Samaria, but there's problems in there. You know, the PA isn't always the best blessing to Israel either. They're kind of a problem, but either way, what do you see Israel doing with that?
With the Palestinian situation as it is right now.
Yeah, and by the way, I had Avi Lipkin on just the other day, and
wonderful.
Yeah, it was great having. It was just yesterday, as a matter of fact. And,
interesting. Always has.
Yeah, he has great thoughts.
Great insight. Always does.
He believes there's going to be a massive aliyah of Jews from America. He says, you know, a lot of the Jews in America, they've married Christian husbands or wives. He goes, he believes Israel's going to open up in the areas of Judea and Samaria. They're going to be flooding there. But you still have the problem with the Palestinian issue within those areas. I know Carolyn Glick has reported on it in the past, but there is that radical element there that Israel has to deal with. Do you have any thoughts on that? And by the way,
yeah,
only got a couple minutes left, so you can say that. And then I'm going to ask you, again, how do people connect with you? WilliamKoenig.com. And anything else you want to share in the hope that you
Thanks,
have
Tom.
to. So go for it.
Well, I appreciate it. I think one concern is Hamas is attempting to get people living in Judea and Samaria, Palestinians in Judea and Samaria, to bring on arms. I mean, to react, just start teeing off on Israel, which was really surprised when you think about what was happening to Hamas and Hezbollah. I mean, for all practical purposes, Judea and Samaria, especially in Area A and Area B, where the Palestinians are majority, nothing happened. And I pray, Tom, that continues. That is problematic. If the Palestinians living within Judea and Samaria take up arms, and that could get bad. And I pray it doesn't happen. That's one of the areas I can concerned. Another thing is just, President Trump is even saying this week, I don't know if we'll get through phase 2. Definitely phase 3. I mean, phase 2 is right around the corner. And, I think it's going to be calm for the now, especially after Netanyahu is going to be in the White House to meet with President Trump. I think that they just have to be managed, and Israel's done a phenomenal job of managing it. But I know a lot of Israelis are very depressed, Tom, your friends, my friends, that Israel wasn't allowed to finish the work. And basically the squeeze by Trump and Witkoff stopped the work from being completed. But Netanyahu is continuing to say it, as well as other members of the military community there. We are going to finish this war. We don't know when, but we're going to finish it. So, Tom, thanks for mentioning our website. Our website is watch.org, WATCH.org. We post news every day out of the year. I put out a weekly news report every Friday. That's at watch.org. You'll see it right there. Koenig's Eye View from the White House, or williamkoenig.com. That's where we have the news report, subscription based. And we've talked about, Tom, in the last couple of years, it's impossible, almost impossible to stay up with everything that's going on right now. It's incredible. I mean, you're doing it 5-6 days a week, and there's just a lot of things going on. But that's what we attempt to do in the news report each week, is emphasize the biblical significance of what's taking place. And it's a subscriber base. That's the way we support the work we do, and appreciate the subscribers we do. And we're looking forward to expanding this with much more detail and video. And thanks for having my book, Eye to Eye, right there on your desk as well, Tom. Thank you.
It's a great book, very insightful. Your website's fantastic. And I encourage you, everybody, to just check out everything that Bill has. You're going to be super blessed. Bill, you're such an inspiration. Thank you for all of the reporting you do. It helps us all to be able to think clearly and navigate the insanity of everything that is going on. Really appreciate you.
Thank you, Tom. One other,
yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. One other note: we're updating Eye to Eye right now to have the Trump term of his 4 years. So we're almost completed. So it's going to be volume 2, and it will be the 4 years of Trump. So we're looking forward to releasing that soon too. And thanks for mentioning that.
Well, I can't wait to have that. So let me know as soon as you have that one ready. I'd love to have you back on as soon as I can. Thanks for joining me. Hey, everybody, I would ask you, like, share, and subscribe this. It's one of the only ways we can really get the word out with your help. If you would, we would really appreciate it. Like, share, and subscribe. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Tomorrow, we'll have You Can't Make This Up. That'll be live, too. I'll take your comments and questions if you have them. God bless you, everybody. Thank you again. Bill, see you soon. And
thanks, Tom.
God bless.
God bless you all. I appreciate it very much.
I have one more thing, Bill.
Okay.
You would know this. You mentioned how depressed and discouraged the people are over in Israel. And just talking with our friends, they're saying now is the time they really need people to come and visit them. Doing a tour, just going over there, anybody, I would encourage you to go. You're going to be blessed. We have our group march is already full, but you can go with other people. Go by yourself. You're only going to be in safe areas, but they really need that encouragement. So
totally agree, Tom. Tanya and I are in touch with people daily, and they need that encouragement. They need our prayers at this very important time. And yes, I think some of the American airlines are going to start flying there again. That'll help. And I think, as you know, from the years you've gone to Israel, there's no greater place. When God sends you, you'll feel safer there than in your own home.
Amen. Indeed you do. I don't care what's going on, but you do. Again, sorry for taking a couple extra minutes, Bill, but that was worth it.
Thanks, Tom.
God bless you.
Bet.
God bless you, everybody. See you soon.
And Tom,